It's Tina Trasser of the Rockland County Business Journal. Good morning, Tina. How are you this morning?
Good morning, all. I am well. I wanted to remind everybody that there's coffee with me again on August 16th. That's this coming Wednesday, 2 days from now, 8:30 to 9:30 at Roasted, Roast, ''D, and Nanuet. Really good coffee, really good conversations have been had in recent months with this. So hope to see a few of you come on out and you can shoot the breeze. Let's see. In other news, the town of Clarkstown is embroiled in yet another lawsuit.
Yay!
Who can keep track? This one is over an Airbnb that a woman had been running on Ilana Lane in Valley Cottage. She bought a 4-bedroom house. Her name is Emma Martinez. She bought a 4-bedroom house in 2018 to use as an Airbnb. Now, at the time, it was legal. It was not illegal in Clarkstown to run an Airbnb. But what often happens with people who run these properties, or very much, there was another situation recently in Orangetown where somebody was renting out their swimming pool. And what happens is neighbors notice, and they become distraught, and they get upset. In this particular case, neighbors got upset with her, and it led the building department to come down, and they found this very minor overhang of a building cabana over her own pool that didn't meet the code and issued her a violation. It was so minor that this particular homeowner went to the Clarkstown Zoning Board of Appeals, and they granted her the variance for the 2-foot overhang because it was so negligible, and it really wasn't that it really wasn't that shocking to have 2 feet. So anyway, that opened up her business operation to the town's gaze, and her timing could not have been worse because at the time, the town. So now we're a couple of years on, and she continues to, wrangle with the building department over this and over that. They have her do soil testing and all kinds of things, which she says were harassment. And ultimately, she's trying to move toward getting her permit because now it's a couple of years later, and Clarkstown requires Airbnb or short-term rental homeowners to have permits. But then things accelerated to the point where Clarkstown made Airbnb or Verbo or these short-term rentals illegal. And so this, what she's claiming in federal court, this is in the U.S. District Court in White Plains, is that the town essentially obstructed her and violated her rights, her civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see where this case goes. It's hard to predict this one. Just to remind people that in March 2022, the council voted unanimously to prevent these sort of operations. The ban essentially prohibits short-term rentals of 29 days or less in all residential zones. So, again, she's claiming that that her rights have been violated, that her property was basically unlawfully taken without compensation in violation of the 15th and 14th Amendments, and the town, rather than respond to the complaint, has basically asked for the case to be moved to federal court, and the federal court, the town has told the federal court it plans to seek dismissal of the case based in part on the homeowner's failure to plead properly, and that saying that the town claims that she never had a right to use the property as a short-term rental. And that's what will be the interesting thing to see if it's teased out, because one, there were many people using properties as short-term rentals prior to the law. Two, you just have to go on VRBO or any of those sites to see that there are still people doing this. So it'll be interesting to see how, these arguments are going on about short-term rentals and Airbnb, all over the country. It'll be interesting to see how this rolls out here, and whether this woman gets any relief or whether they throw the book at her. But, yes, so we will watch that one because it's interesting.
It is interesting. We were talking about the seeming collapse of the Airbnb industry, not just here in Rockland, but nationwide. Now, that's mostly cited to reasoning that it's become so expensive to rent an Airbnb over just simply renting a hotel room or just purchasing a hotel room for a number of nights. And obviously there are rules that are different between each household. And now people are starting to just sell off Airbnb properties. And specifically with here in Rockland, there are now several of towns that have either banned them outright or are looking to do so. So do you think in cases like this, there's no way that this woman is going to be able to restart her Airbnb, but what would you say that the future of Airbnbs in Rockland as a whole are just kind of dismal at this point? They're pretty much out and out?
I think that, isn't it only Clarkstown that's got this ban? I'm trying to recall this.
Orangetown, I believe, is looking to do something similar. Jeff had mentioned that this morning. Or maybe just Nyack? I forget which. Well,
I think it would. I know that there are many Airbnbs in Nyack, Piermont, and it's a tough situation because on the one hand, in places like Nyack or Piermont, where there is good reason to try to generate tourism, Airbnb is part, or Vrbo, short-term rentals. That's really part of the ecosystem of tourism. And if you think about it, this is what I think is critical about Airbnb here in Rockland County. Rockland County does not have boutique hotels. It does not have the sort of interesting properties that we have seen crop up all over the Hudson Valley. We're basically a county with the major big brand names, the flag hotels, and travelers don't necessarily want that kind of sterile environment or that basic environment. So I think on one hand, in a place that wants to develop or is known for its tourism, Airbnb is kind of part of that fabric. And so I think it would be harmful for Orangetown, what with Piermont and Nyack being part of those, that town. Same can be said, I think, about places like Suffern, and there's I think there are even Airbnbs in the village of Haverstraw. It's kind of, there's two sides to this argument. On the one hand, it generates a different kind of tourism to a place. Somebody might come and stay here who might not otherwise want to, if all they could stay in is the Holiday Inn or one of the big chains. Clarkstown, they had that incident, the shooting incident in New City. They locked down on it, and truthfully, I don't know that. I always felt that reaction came very quickly, very harshly, and without really enough exploration. Now, Clarkstown doesn't have a concentrated center. Like one particular village that's a draw for tourism. But, I don't know. I still think that the Airbnb Vrbo model it's out there and thriving, especially in any community that where tourism is kind of a part of their profile. I do agree that, there's, when you look at those options and you look at the cleaning fees and then the service fees and then there's another fee, it is true that it can become a very frustrating exercise and, one that can be a turnoff. But still, and there are all kinds of new properties that are coming online that give people more room, more kitchen space, the things that people want when they travel. But I would not exactly hold a funeral for Airbnb or Verbo. I think a lot of people are still traveling that way, and that Rockland County, I don't think that it can foreclose on short-term rentals. I mean, there are communities that are, overridden with that, but that's not the case here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, we have to see, and it's going to be interesting to follow this lawsuit, so we'll see how that ends up working. Yeah. It's interesting that they wanted to bring it to federal court. I'm curious to see do we know the reason for why? I mean, we know why they want to throw it out, but
well, because the attorney on that case is really boiling this down to a violation of civil rights.
Okay.
And property rights. So I'm going to be very curious to see how that case winds through and what opinions come out of that. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, if I have a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
So speaking of, this is a story that we ran last week, and there was a lot of buzz around it. And it speaks also to tourism, so a good segue. And that is that a new fine art gallery is going to open up in Nyack called the Perry Lawson Fine Art Gallery. And what's interesting about this is, Nyack itself has branded itself as art and soul on the Hudson. And yes, it has its boutiques and restaurants and music and Edward Hopper House Study Center and maybe even some Airbnb. But this pair of women said that this village really falls short when it comes to galleries displaying fine art. And I think if you take a good look, that they're right. So Robin Lawson Schuer and Carol Perry, both artists and curators, are opening on September 7th, as I said, the Perry Lawson Fine Arts Gallery on North Broadway right next to the Edward Hopper Museum. But the interesting thing I thought, in reporting out this story is it's going to be opening on the ground floor of a beautiful Victorian building, a building that long ago would have been a one-family residence, but over many decades has a residence upstairs and has been used for office space downstairs. And, what they point out, and rightfully so, and I think this is the thing to ponder here, is the rents are so high in Nyack that it has probably kept other gallery owners and artists from being able to get onto Main Street with galleries. I mean, Nyack was once filled with galleries and antique shops, and that evolved over the last 30 years or so. But the formula that they've got is they've got a building that they can monetize with rents for residents upstairs and still one office downstairs, and then use a portion of the building for this gallery. So, it's an interesting, I think, formula in terms of wanting to bring fine arts, recognizing the prohibited rents on Main Street, and finding another way to do that to enhance the village's image as truly a place of art and soul. So a lot of buzz around that story, a lot of excitement about that, a lot of people happy for Nyack and for these two artists and curators who are going to be doing this in Nyack.
It does sound pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Beautiful building and, nice cachet for the village. Everything helps. Everything helps when, you've got a village that, wants to be a destination. It has to have these offerings.
Mm-hmm. And so it shall, and we're glad it accepted it, and we are hoping that it turns out really well, that it's going to turn out great for the village, and that it's going to turn out great for the Fine Arts Center, because that sounds super interesting. So hopefully maybe Jeff and I could take a day trip there or something like that in the future. Thank you so much, Tina Traster of the Rockland County Business Journal, for giving us a call as you do every Monday. We do appreciate your insight into the Rockland business world. If anybody out there right now wants any more information on all things Rockland County business, you can, of course, visit the Rockland County Business Journal at rcbizjournal.com. That's RCBIZ journal.com. Or you can visit their Facebook or Twitter page. And like we said, Tina, when's that next Meet the Editor?
Yeah, so that's this Wednesday, 2 days from now, 8:30 in the morning.
Great. So definitely check that out. That's at
That's at Roasted.
Roasted, right? There's a cafe nearby me called Roost, and I confuse the two a lot. So I wanted to make sure you said it just so that I knew. Roasted on Wednesday at 8:00. You said
At 8:30.
8:30. Great. Get there early. Make sure you get some coffee ahead of time. That way you can spend all that time talking to Tina. All right, Tina, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the event on Wednesday, and we will talk to you next Monday.
All right. Have a great week.
You too.